Lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo to present. And our top stories in the news tonight: a woman of KALIKI-LIKI compound accuses police of ignoring calls to find her lost son. FRA continues to face backlash from farmers over reduced satellite depots. Court checks on the infamous 51 houses. And in international news, church attack in northwest Nigeria kills 3. And in sports news, Chess Federation reaches the final stage in selecting participants for the 2022 African Youth Championships. Now the news in detail. An unidentified male suspected to be in his mid-30s has been found dead in Lusaka's Borderview Woodlands area under unknown circumstances. An eyewitness found at the crime scene, identified as Tazo Tutu, says the body was discovered in the early hours of Tuesday by passers-by who have since recognized the man as one of the waste pickers in the area. Meanwhile, the new Woodlands Extension Neighborhood Association chairperson Njoya Tembo says the incident is regrettable as residents will now be living in fear of the unknown. More in this report.
A man has been found dead in Borderview of Woodlands Chalala area in the early hours of Tuesday by some passerbys in unclear circumstances. A check by Camnet TV News found an eyewitness, Tazo Tutu, who says the man has been recognized by some residents as one of the waste speakers in the area. He says it is difficult to state what could have led to his death, as his body does not show any wounds, neither is there any trace of blood to suspect any foul play.
From picked just some few minutes ago. He's not a resident of this area. These are waste pickers who are coming from the compounds. And those are the people who sleep anywhere. Where he found a nice bushy sleep. In the morning they pick my waste, like my recycled bottles, all these things. So otherwise, he's not a resident of here. And we even suspect that these are the same people who are taking us at night. Because he's not stay here. We don't know him. Yeah, so another appeal, we just appeal the owner of this land to clear it. It has been like this for many years.
And the new Woodlands Extension Neighborhood Association chairperson, Njoya Tembo, says the incident has brought fear among residents who have since called on the police to intensify patrols, especially at night. Mr. Njoya says he has informed the Lusaka City Council to clear the bushes in which the man was found dead in, saying it might lead to other cases if left unchecked.
And this area has been earmarked for clearing. It would have been done last week, but there are a few logistics that needed to be in place. So all the areas which look like they are a security threat, the residents of New Woodlands want to see to it that everything is attended to, everything is handled, and the place is secure for the residents and those that come as visitors.
Meanwhile, efforts to get an update from the police proved futile before broadcast time. Messi Chanka reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
A 60-year-old Helen Perry of Lusaka's KALIKI-LIKI compound has accused police of being reluctant to find her 39-year-old lost son. Ms. Perry explains that her son, Charles Sakala, went missing 2 months ago, a matter that was reported to the police, but nothing has been done thus far. Meanwhile, a friend to the victim, Kandra Nyambe, tells Camnet News that Mr. Sakala was last heard arguing with an unidentified woman a night before his disappearance. More in this following report.
This 60-year-old woman of Lusaka's KALIKI-LIKI compound is in desperate search of her 38-year-old son, Charles Sakala, who she says has been missing for the past 2 months. The mother, who wrote to Camnet News 21st June 2022, discloses that she reported her missing son to the police, but no useful information about his whereabouts has since been established. She has tried searching through mortuaries in Lusaka, but with no trace of her son. She has since called on the members of the public to help in the search.
Charles Sakala. So another time pisweki kumtendele, enzo nyamulako mndio kumtendele. So si one day anagora uza banzaki ukamba utine naenda. So kwa mena naenda stizi wataisa kusakira sapezeka ku polisi ku UTH ku Levi tinaendako paka ya Palomba tafikana ku Noromba. Albe phone but anazaka almost 38 years. Enda tachoka ku polisi tinaenda tunambira ku KALIKI-LIKI taenda mtendele kunani kalingalinga paka chainama kunani ku Cheston ku Cheston watutuma kunani ku Mwasaka Pwepwe tachoka ku Mwasaka Pwepwe taenda ku Udranzi tachoka Udranzi ndiye kubwera ku Komboni.
Meanwhile, Kandra Nyambe, who was staying with the victim, says a night before his disappearance he overheard a phone conversation between his roommate and an unknown woman.
Tindiri njamzanga nobona unachoti kachijidwe chi kamba kuchinja kachijwi ezota akauka usiku akaenda short time futi patapita ku 50 minutes futi abwera nichacho nchitika pano mzanga uyu tunachi ambuchinja chinja chimuntu chapi chinja cho chapi manje tesini ndakabwira ngate bwanji nikabwira uri amayo wao nikabauza ira apa mzanga simamu sio day trapo tagona mnyumba after tagona ineneze meso nabwana mvira pakona akamba na wakazi so inangala udapo maningi nchaje vitika mnyumba.
Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Some traders in Lusaka's central business district, Freedom Way, have alleged that the local authorities' decision to mount concrete bins in the CBD will not end indiscriminate waste disposal. In an interview with Camnet News, a trader, Dixon Chelo, has suggested that the local authority should have instead mounted metallic bins. And a check by Camnet News found that some newly mounted concrete bins have already developed cracks. More in this report.
Garbage in Lusaka Central Business District has for a long time been a challenge. An effort by Lusaka City Council to table the issue in the past by placing metallic and plastic bins has failed to curb the issue. On 20th June 2022, Lusaka City Council announced the commencement of the placement of 400 concrete bins in the CBD. The concrete bins, according to LCC, were arrived at to avoid vandalism that has been observed with regards to plastic and metallic bins that have been mounted before. However, a check by Camnet News found some of the newly placed bins already developing cracks a few hours after installation. A trader spoken to says Lusaka City Council should reconsider the use of concrete bins as they come with numerous challenges.
Because maona wakanso mayo napugenda kuti batenge mabini mukachu unapelesa che hapa so wakanjwa kufika chani kufika pansi so sivipanga sense kuti na mibo pansi bilibe so romance so byamba kununka banje.
Meanwhile, Dixon Chelo, a trader, is calling for the introduction of metallic bins to be placed in the CBD and that LCC should work on their waste collection attitude, saying that the CBD produces a lot of waste each and every day.
So the good things which have been above for many, at least which have been at themselves. And again, the man can go to the cool chat. Look at Cairo Road, more clean, but my vendors. According treatment, I'm taking up and I'm losing my conga. So, from the Chiwa Council of Akigonze, civil step.
Cherish Sibote for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former workers at the International Federation for Persons with Albinism and Blindness, IFPAB, have accused the non-governmental organization of not paying them 3 months' salary arrears. The aggrieved former employees explained that they worked as recruiting officers and were in charge of collecting 50 kwacha membership fees from persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups who were promised collateral-free loans by the NGO. Meanwhile, in a phone interview, IFPAB Deputy Information Publicity Manager, Mr. Wisdom Kayeye, claims the accused have not lodged a formal complaint at the company. More in this report.
The International Federation for Persons with Albinism and Blindness, IFPAB, has been under fire of recent, following various accusations of not paying its recruitment officers, as well as not fulfilling their promise of giving collateral-free loans to persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups who paid membership fee to the organization. A group representing 300 persons with disabilities recently cried foul, alleging that they had been scammed by the organization, which demanded that they each pay 50 kwacha as membership fee to be given collateral-free loans, which they have not been given since 2019. While the organization says that what was delaying the process was the late delivery of funds from donors, former IFPAB employees have also come forward, claiming that they have not been given 3 months' salary arrears for their work as recruiting officers across the country. The aggrieved, who say they were threatened by the organization every time they asked for money, say that some of them were fired and others resigned due to the same problem. They were speaking to Camnet News Tuesday after airing their grievances at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Why shouldn't the organization pay us our money since we signed our contracts? I believe even others who did not even sign contracts, but they were sent there out to do a certain particular job, but not given money. So is this how we're supposed to be? Because I've gone for 3 months without getting paid and I demand for my money. And if it's close to 15,000, how am I going to survive in this condition? So I believe something can be done. So my plea goes to the relevant authorities, if they can look into this matter, because we are being affected. We can't just rely on being told no, you'll be given when funding comes. We did not agree on waiting for funding.
People, they came to me, they applied. I made sure that every money that they were demanding, the subscription fee, they were paying, and then I was remitting to the organization. Now me, being the recruiting officer, I'm so much affected that I've looked as if I'm a scammer now. I've become a scammer to the people. I've been looked as though I'm a scammer. Then those people now, they are on me saying that you are a scammer, you are going to be put in cells or else bring back our money. Now, when I highlighted to the management of IFPAB, they have been just promising we are going to work on it, otherwise everything is okay.
Meanwhile, in a phone interview, IFPAB Deputy Publicity and Information Secretary Mr. Wisdom Kayeye claims the aggrieved have not approached the company over their money.
I don't think currently they should even be complaining, because we actually on firm ground that we will actually award everyone for whatever they've put in. So those that are ready to actually continue with the organization have actually given in a pledge to continue with the organization. Those that don't want to continue with the organization, there's something that is being put in place for their emoluments.
The former IFPAB employees have, however, called for the organization to be investigated due to numerous complaints. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
A food expert, Dr. Luke Mugode, says Zambia risks not attaining the 2030 goal of zero hunger. Speaking during an engagement meeting with civil society organizations on Tuesday, Dr. Mugode notes that the current Farmer Input Support Program, FISP, does not reflect Zambia's commitment to food diversification. And Civil Society for Scaling Up Nutrition CSO San Country Coordinator Matthew Zimhuru says assessing the country's food situation is important as it will allow for key adjustments before 2030. More in this report.
Zambia is still regarded as one of the hungriest countries in the world, as over half of the population live in dire poverty, not being able to afford 3 meals a day, according to the World Bank. The country in 2015 signed up to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, with goal number 1 aiming to eradicate poverty and goal number 2 aiming to achieve a status of zero hunger by 2013. The country's overdependence on maize has worried stakeholders in the nutrition sector, who said this increases the likelihood of vulnerability in years where the maize crop fails. Speaking during an engagement meeting with civil society organizations Tuesday, a food expert, Dr. Luke Mugode, explains that despite various administrations committing to food diversification, this is not reflected in the Farmer Input Support Program, FISP. He has therefore called for the involvement of consumers in the budget-making process on the food sector if food diversification is to be made into a reality.
We definitely should look forward to a day when consumers can actually dictate what it is that should be produced by those that are involved in that value chain. If I may ask a question to each one of us in here to say, who has a say on what a farmer produces? Who has a say in what our farmers are producing? So because of that, we are constrained to have a variety of foods because consumers are unable to dictate what farmers should produce in outlet what should be available on the market.
Meanwhile, speaking to Camnet News after the meeting, Civil Society for Scaling Up Nutrition CSO San Country Coordinator Mr. Matthew Muhuru says assessing Zambia's current food situation is important, as only this will help in arriving at the 2030 goals on ending hunger.
We are happy that the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, made a very strong position at the UN Food System Summit, where he indicated that Zambia is going to transform, the food system. So supporting government through that process and just coming up with details of what needs to be done becomes quite key. So it is a hope that, the food system position that Zambia is developing today can also guide, the budget making process, so that even as we are putting monies to our food production, we are really supporting foods that we need as a country and foods that will meet our dietary needs.
The stakeholders have emphasized on the need to protect land against degradation, stating that only this will guarantee the growing of nutritious foods. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Iteji Member of Parliament Mutinta Twambo says farmers in his constituency are incurring losses when transporting their produce to the nearest Food Reserve Agency, FRA depots. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Twambo says this follows the decision taken by the agency to reduce the number of satellite depots from 18 in the past to 11 this year. He says the reduced number is making farmers move long distances, coupled with a bad road network, thereby being charged huge sums of money by the vehicle owners. The area Member of Parliament has since appealed to the agency to rescind its decision of reducing the number of satellite depots.
Basically, we want to appeal to FRA to reconsider the decision to reduce the number of satellite depots in most of these rural areas, and the TSS in particular. We are of the information that the depots have been reduced from the number of 18 to 11. It means the farmers will incur additional costs in terms of transportation, and more important, the TSS constituency doesn't have roads. We are now in the process of ensuring that we open up the farming blocks with roads. So it means the costs of doing business will go very high if the distance to the satellite depots is also widened. So what we strongly feel is a serious introspection on this issue, so that we continue to make farming business profitable for the poor farmers who are out there in the rural areas where the roads are not passable.
The Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, Chief Executive Officer Alice Albright has expressed commitment in partnering with Zambia in the promotion of economic and inclusive growth of the country's agriculture sector. Speaking during a meeting with Republican President Hakainde Hichilema at State House Tuesday, Ms. Albright has assured the head of state that the MCC will be undertaking projects that will improve Zambia's water, sanitation and infrastructure sectors. Ms. Albright also indicated that the corporation is keen on supporting the government to deliver sustainable and inclusive economic growth for the people of Zambia. And Republican President Hakainde Hichilema says Zambia is a democratic country and that delivering economic and social benefits to the citizenry should be prioritized. More in the following report.
Since 2006, Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, has been undertaking various developmental projects that aim at alleviating poverty, providing quality sanitation and a reliable water sector in Zambia. Among such projects is the Bombay Drainage System, a hybrid solar-powered water pumping station in Jack Compound. It is for this reason the Millennium Challenge Corporation Chief Executive Officer, Alice Albright, says our organization is keen on providing investments to the country that answers to water, sanitation and infrastructure challenges. The MCC reaffirmed its commitment to supporting government efforts in providing sustainable and inclusive development.
Mr. President, let me conclude by reaffirming our commitment to supporting your government's efforts to deliver sustainable and inclusive economic growth for the people of Zambia through a second compact, building on our previous work and our long-standing partnership.
And Republican President Hakainde Hichilema expressed optimism in the project that the corporation has been undertaking, citing that the projects border on the 8th National Development Plan.
I'm pleased to say to you that our 8th National Development Plan, which focused on economic transformation and job creation and development of human capital, is something that we are paying particular attention to as a government to be able to create an environment that will help assist greater results being achieved under compact. So we want to assure you that also sustainability is important to us all. And that has been finalized, that plan has been finalized, and it's all now just going through the processes for very transparent about that. So I think it's important that you are aware of that.
Meanwhile, the head of state further briefed Ms. Albright and her delegation on the current stage of the International Monetary Fund IMF deal negotiations and expressed confidence of receiving the IMF bailout package.
This has now been done at this stage to get all the creditors, material creditors audited. I'm sure you're aware that on the 16th of June, which is last week, the first creditors meeting took place. And China and France co-chaired that meeting. I think it's a big achievement on the road towards reaching some consensus around the issue of debt. I thought that we need to give you that briefing from our end, and we're confident that nothing will stand in the way of us reaching some resolution on the debt, to restructure the debt, to allow us some headroom as a bank. You know this very well yourself, to allow us some headroom to be able to release some of the resources that has been going to debt service, to amortization, but to really programs like the compact to the support that's required programs into education, very important to us. I'm sure you're aware of our decision to support education to secondary school.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Chipoka Mulenga, says the hosting of the 56th Zambia International Trade Fair will be a landmark and a continuation of enhancing mutual relations with the international community through trade and business networking. Speaking to the media in Lusaka Tuesday, Mr. Mulenga says the trade fair has given prominence to the role of both the public and private sector in ensuring value addition for sustainable development. He says the package for this year's event goes beyond exhibitions to include a business forum, business-to-business seminar and a business clinic. The trade fair is being held in Ndola on the Copperbelt from the 29th of June to the 1st of July 2022 under the theme Promoting Value Addition for Sustainable Growth.
The package for this year's event goes beyond the exhibition to include the following. Number one, the Business Forum. The Business Forum will provide a rare platform for the private sector players to articulate their path towards excellence and engage into discussions in order to exchange ideas on how best to transform individual businesses. This government is so focused on making sure that individuals at their personal levels, they grow their business engagements. It will provide a platform where informative discussions will be held and will be led by various panel discussions and speakers. The Business Forum will run over a period of 3 days from the 29th of June to the 1st of July 2022 and forms a major highlight of the trade fair with some exciting topics to be discussed on the private sector's role on value addition, African Free Trade Area and SMEs. The Business Forum is expected to feature case studies from entities fostering value addition and discussions around the theme. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, the second engagement that is going to be witnessed on this ZITF is the business-to-business seminars. This is critical.
This is Camnet Television Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. The Lusaka Magistrate Court Tuesday morning moved to Lusaka's Chalala area to check on the evidence in a matter in which a Lusaka couple is charged with corrupt practices involving concealment and possession of 51 properties suspected to be proceeds of crime. This is in a matter in which Charles Loyana, 51, and his wife Suzanne Loyana, 46, both civil servants, have been jointly charged with 2 counts of corrupt practices involving concealment and possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime worth more than 37 million kwacha. Meanwhile, a witness told the court during the scene visit that as a developer, he still has interest in some of the properties that Charles Loyana bought from him because he did not completely pay for them. More in this report.
The subordinate court in Lusaka Tuesday morning moved to Chalala area for a scene visit to have a glimpse of the controversial 51 houses that a couple of Lusaka is accused of corruptly gaining. These houses were seized by the state after the story made controversial headlines, with no one coming forth to claim ownership of the said property as the state questioned the legality. This morning, during the said scene visit, the Lusaka's Magistrate Court under the Specialized Financial Economic Crimes Court, presided by Magistrate Faide Samaundu, learned that some people encroached in one of the pieces of land which is believed to have been corruptly gained. It has been discovered that some people are illegally carrying out construction works on some undeveloped pieces of land, which is among the 51 properties the state seized from a couple accused of concealment and corrupt practices. In this case, the state accuses a senior accountant at the Ministry of Finance, Charles Loyana, and his wife, Susan Loyana, an accountant as well, with charges of corrupt practices involving the concealment and possession of the said 51 properties, which is believed to be valued at 37 million kwacha, property believed of being proceeds of crime. However, the couple denies the said allegations. The witness on stand, a one Mr. Walia, who was in charge of selling the land to the accused and where the said 51 houses have been built, took the court around the plot in question. The court also visited 2 commercial plots and learnt that at the first plot, the accused paid a sum of 10,000 kwacha deposit, whilst at the second one, they paid undisclosed deposit. Trial in this case continues on Wednesday. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Former Chilanga Member of Parliament Keith Mukata's wife, Mariko Roisin Hore, has pleaded not guilty before the Lusaka Magistrate Court for allegedly stealing a motor vehicle and changing ownership into her name. Mariochi, 41, a businesswoman of Lusaka's Charleston area, has been charged with 4 counts, among them theft of a motor vehicle, theft by directors, forgery, and uttering a false document. Allegations before court are that the accused on the 29th of January 2021, being a shareholder and director for Windsor Bakeries Limited, allegedly stole a Toyota Hiace worth 100,000 kwacha, property for the said company, which she co-owns with her ex-husband, Mr. Mukata. Further allegations are that Ms. Hore, between the 1st and 29th of January 2021, with intent to defraud, forged a letter of sale dated 18th October 2019, purporting to show that it was genuinely issued by Webster Malunga. She also alleged to have presented the said false document to the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RATSA. She will appear before Magistrate Crispin Hampongani on the 28th of July for trial. A governance activist, Josek Kunda, has emphasized the need for government to revisit the current Immigration and Deportation Act in order to conform to the country's constitution, which allows for one to obtain citizenship once they have lived in Zambia for 10 years. In an interview, Mr. Kunda says it is quite disheartening that a number of prohibited immigrants who have lived in Zambia for over 20 years are still considered refugees. He says there is need for the Immigration Office to ensure that there is sanity in the handling of foreign immigrants in the country. He adds that the country's correctional facilities countrywide are overwhelmed, but the immigration officers have continued to make arrests on people who have lived longer in the country to be considered citizens.
Anybody who has lived in our country for 10 years and above qualify for citizenship. So we are appealing to the relevant authorities, especially the new Director General for Immigration Department. He needs to ensure that there is sanity in the handling of the foreign immigrants. It's very unfortunate that countrywide we only have space for 9,000 convicts in correctional facilities, and yet our correctional facilities are overwhelmed with over 25,000 convicts. Besides, I would give an example to Kamwala Remand Center, which has the capacity originally of only about 200 to maybe 250 people or inmates. And yet when you go there physically, I was just there 2 days ago, checking on what I'm talking about, we have over 1,000 inmates. So the correctional facilities are overwhelmed. The prisons are overwhelmed with all these people. And just here in Lusaka, we have over 300 prohibited immigrants who are remanded in correctional facilities. So we need this matter to be addressed properly. We do not want to be misunderstood by the international community that we are mistreating the foreign immigrants. They deserve humanity, they deserve fairness, they deserve social justice. They don't need to be discriminated.
The Drug Enforcement Commission Public Relations Manager Matthias Kamanga has alleged that the only way to win the fight against drug trafficking in Zambia is through citizen participation. Speaking ahead of the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, commemorated on the 26th of June each year, Mr. Kamanga says citizens can participate by ensuring that they report any suspected drug trafficking to the relevant authorities. He says parents should take interest in educating their children on the dangers of consuming or sale of drugs. More in this report.
The Drug Enforcement Commission has re-emphasized its stance in the fight against drug abuse and drug trafficking in the country. Speaking to Camnet TV in an interview Tuesday morning, the institution's public relations manager, Matthias Kamanga, says DEC will not relent in its fight to end drug trafficking, saying the organization is on high alert and any perpetrators will be apprehended.
See, we are vigilant and we are not going to miss our words when it comes to the enforcement of the law in terms of drug traffickers. We are coming and we are coming for you. Because they are the people that are responsible for the availability of these drugs in our compounds and in our streets. And so, as a commission, we shall definitely go after them, and each criminal has their own day. And as a commission, we are coming after you, and we're going to make sure that we arrest them.
Speaking ahead of the International Day of Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking that falls on June 26, Mr. Kamanga says the only way this fight will be won is when the job is not left to DEC alone, but when ordinary citizens take an interest in ending this vice.
At the occasion, and so we thought we'd put it on a day that is convenient for him. We are focusing this year on fighting drug and substance abuse through strong families and a healthy lifestyle. Now, what we've realized is that if we start fighting drug abuse by just arresting people and just by doing other things, we are leaving out the root that is very, very important, which is the family. Every one of us is born of a woman. Every one of us has somewhere where we come from, or people that we can call our family. And so if they are involved in the fight against drug and substance abuse, we will be doing it in such a manner that as you are growing up, they are teaching you, they are giving you the guidance, and they are giving the information that is required.
Earlier this month, Camnet TV aired stories where DEC nabbed some persons for suspected drug trafficking. Mercy Chanika reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
This is Camnet Television and not just another channel. We take our second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the mission.
There's so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
Now in international news, 3 deaths and 36 kidnapped is a result of the latest attack against 2 churches in Nigeria's Kaduna state. The attack took place on Sunday and details of the outcome were revealed on Monday by a local government official. The authorities blamed the attack on gunmen known locally as bandits and that are mainly active in the northwest Nigeria. In other international stories, South African microbiologist Sean Davison regained his freedom Monday after serving 3 years of house arrest for premeditated murder. He was convicted for assisting 3 people to commit suicide, a quadriplegic friend, a man with motor neuron disease, and a paralyzed man. In another case, he also helped his mother end her life. For more in international news.
3 deaths and 36 people kidnapped is the result of the latest attack against 2 churches in Nigeria's Kaduna state. The attack took place on Sunday and details of the outcome were revealed on Monday by a local government official. The authorities blamed the attack on gunmen known locally as bandits that are mainly active in northwest Nigeria. This latest incident came 2 weeks after gunmen killed 40 people at the church in the usually safer southwest region. Security will be a major issue in next year's presidential election to replace President Muhammadu Buhari, who steps down after 2 terms in office.
The number of young voters registered for Kenya's August elections has dropped since the last poll 5 years ago, the Election Commission announced, pointing to apathy among a youth disenchanted by economic hardship and widespread corruption. This is despite the total number of people who have signed up to cast their ballots increasing by more than 12%.
The number of registered voters is 22,120,458. The number of youth 18 to 34 years old registered to vote in 2022 stands at 39.84%, which is a decline of 5.27% against what we had in 2017. So far.
This year's presidential contest is shaping up to be a 2-horse race between Deputy President William Ruto, who is now 55 years, and 77-year-old Raila Odinga, a veteran politician and former Prime Minister. 2 other candidates have been cleared to contest the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, who must stand down after serving a maximum of 2 5-year terms.
South African microbiologist Sean Davison regained his freedom Monday after serving 3 years of house arrest for premeditated murder. He was convicted for assisting 3 people to commit suicide, a quadriplegic friend, a man with motor neuron disease, and a paralyzed man. In another case, he also helped his mother end her life.
I helped my mother to die out of compassion, and I helped the 3 men to die in Cape Town out of compassion. Compassion is compassion. Why should the compassion for my mother be any different from the compassion I felt for these men? I did not cross the line. There was no line to cross.
The pro-euthanasia campaigner was sentenced in 2019 to 8 years under house arrest, 5 of which were suspended. Medically assisted suicide or voluntary euthanasia are illegal in South Africa. The 59-year-old hopes the law will change.
While I've been on house arrest, a number of countries changed the law, including New Zealand. All of the states in Australia have now changed the law, and recently we had Spain and other states in the United States. There is a general move around the world for a law change, and my issue has highlighted it again in South Africa, and hopefully the politicians are going to sit up and listen and also feel the mood of the country.
In recent years, high-profile figures in South Africa have made the same call as Davison. Near the end of his life and on his 85th birthday, Desmond Tutu went against the teaching of his fellow Anglican Church clerics to publicly support the assisted suicide campaign, especially for those suffering unbearably.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu was a good friend to me and very supportive of me throughout my journey through the court, starting in New Zealand when I was arrested for my mother's death, and it continued in South Africa when I was first arrested and charged with murder. The very next day, he came out in the media in support, without even knowing the circumstances, because he trusted me and he knew, he gauged what had happened. His loss as a voice in the campaign is a great loss to the campaign, because when Desmond Tutu spoke, the world listened.
Davison founded the Right to Die charity Dignity SA. In 2018, the African region of the World Medical Association rejected euthanasia, calling instead for the strengthening of palliative care for terminal patients across the continent.
It's now time for sports news. In sports news, the Zambia Chess Federation Vice President Leslie Chikuse notes that the selection of participants in the forthcoming 2022 African Youth Championships have reached an advanced level. In an interview with Camnet Sports, Chikuse says all the provinces have sent in their representation except Copperbelt Province. Chikuse reveals that 8 participants are supposed to come from the Copperbelt Province and have not yet arrived because the selection process is still ongoing. Chikose adds that at least 12 athletes from each African country will convene in Zambia to compete ahead of the tournament.
FIDE President Akadi Divotovic is actually also becoming, that is on the 22nd, basically just coming to be there on the opening ceremony of the Africa Youth Chess Championship. So that in itself shows how much importance has been put to this tournament. The last time we had these tournaments, of course, there have been the Egyptians that have always been trying to win. We're expecting that this time around Zambia will be able to win this tournament and produce the necessary international masters. So we'll be having categories under 12, under 18, under 16 participating basically in the tournament. The selection process has already been done, except for Copperbelt, where they have continued to have the trials. I think the trials are ending today, where they're supposed to pick 8 players from there. From Zambia, we're expecting about 25 players to participate in that tournament.
We come to the end of our news, but before we call the headlines once again. A woman of KALIKI-LIKI compound accuses police of ignoring calls to find her lost son. FRA continues to face backlash from farmers over reduced satellite depots. Court checks on the infamous 51 houses. And in international news, church attack in northwest Nigeria kills 3. In sports news, Chess Federation reaches the final stage in selecting participants for the 2022 African Youth Championships. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from Proverbs 4, verse 23 to 25. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Thank you for watching the news once again. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.